Okay. Welcome to the We Grow with Love 5 convention. My name's Tom. I'm an addict.
Hi, Tom.
And I'm going to read the Just for Today meditation. As we grow and learn and to overcome our tendency to run and hide from ourselves and our feelings, rather than risk vulnerability, many of us have developed habits that keep others at a safe distance. These patterns of emotional isolation can give us the feeling we are hopelessness, lack behind our mask. We used to take risks with our lives. Now we can take risks with our feelings through our sharing with other addicts. We learn that we are not unique. We do not make ourselves unduly vulnerable simply by letting others know who we are. For we are in good company, and by working the 12 steps of NA program, we grow and change. We no longer want or need to hide our emerging selves. We are offered the opportunity to shed the emotional camouflage we develop to survive our active addiction. By opening ourselves to others, we risk becoming vulnerable, but that risk is well worth the rewards. With the help of other sponsors and other recovering addicts, we learn how to express our feelings honestly and openly. In turn, we become nourished and encouraged by the unconditional love of our companions as we practice our spiritual principles. We find strength and freedom both in ourselves and those around us. We are set free to be ourselves and to enjoy the company of our fellow addicts. Just for today, I will openly and honestly share with another recovering addict. I will risk becoming vulnerable and celebrate myself and my friendship with other NA members. I will grow. Okay. During the sharing session, if there is anyone who does not want to be taped, please let us know so we can turn off the tape. With that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Maria.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, family. I'm an addict named Marie.
Hi, Marie.
Maybe have a moment of silence so I can gather my thoughts. I'm nervous. Thank you. Again, I'm an addict named Marie. And I'm grateful to be here. You know, this is my third year coming here to We Grow with Love, and it's such a beautiful place, you know, for myself and the spirituality, you know. I'm grateful too this year because my sponsor is here today. You know, well, she came too, and I'm happy that she's here. And I told her, well, I'm doing a workshop on sponsorship. She goes, oh, you are good. I gotta be there. And I said, well, she said, I gotta hear this. And I said, well, whoa, I gotta hear this too. You know, because I know what I was gonna say. But the topic again is sponsorship, how and why. You know, and the sponsorship is the very vital tool in our program. Because it is, after all, the therapeutic value of one addict helping another. And who better is another addict who's got some clean time and has a working knowledge of the steps. You know, when I first came to the fellowship, I didn't want to get a sponsor. Well, I didn't even know what the heck a sponsor was to begin with. And when they were talking about, you need a sponsor, get a sponsor, you know, like, okay. And I had gotten a sponsor, but it's like, okay, where do we go from here? You know, and it was just a sponsor by name. I never used her. And as I got out of a treatment center, I went and got another sponsor. But I asked this one woman to be my sponsor, and she, you know, she's like, well, I'm honored that she said, let me get with my sponsor. And she's like, well, I'm honored that you asked me to, you know, to be your sponsor, but I can't do it. So I felt that let down, you know. So it's like I was afraid to ask anybody else, you know. But she told me she couldn't do it because she was sponsoring 5 other people, and, you know, her sponsor said that was enough, you know. But me in my heart, I believe if someone asks someone to be a sponsor, and because we don't know who's gonna utilize us and who isn't, again, it'd be like sponsored by name or whatever. But how I came about my sponsor, I met her as a friend first, and I didn't really want to ask you because, again, from the previous experience I had with another sponsor, asking someone to be my sponsor, this lady had a lot of sponsees already, so it's for me like, should I or shouldn't I kind of thing. I was, playing with that idea of asking her. Finally, I asked her, and she said, okay, and I'm like, whoa, and I was all excited, I got a sponsor, because I was grateful, because this woman that I watched, she utilizes the program, and she has a working knowledge of the steps, not just knowing the steps and reading them or anything like that. She applies it in her life, and it's like, that's what I want. And I had to learn about what step one was, and how I came about asking her is I had to get over that fear of asking anyone to be my sponsor. I had counselors and stuff in the past, but it's not the same. And then again, sharing my story over, it gets, tiring after a while, and I knew for me being clean was not enough. I had to have something else. And I am blessed today. I still have the same sponsor today. And there are many times in between where I'm firing my sponsor. I don't believe in that firing, hiring shit anyway, because either you is or you ain't, or you do or you don't, and for us, I've been through a lot of things in my life, a lot of turmoil and a lot of happiness, a lot of, it says it too, the good, not even the good with the bad lessons, life's lessons, and they say when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. At that given time, that's when she appeared in my life, because I was on that soul search. I wanted more, and there she was, and I'm sweating. And after she said yes, boom, there was the work, and I'm like, whoa, and oh God, I gotta work now, I didn't know, I had a basic text, I read the basic text, but I didn't study the basic text. I could read it and whatever, but I couldn't understand what the first step was until I got with this woman. And powerless, that word powerless, I'm powerless, not me, I ain't powerless. Come to learn, I learned a lot about what powerlessness is. I'm powerless over people, places, things, situations. I'm just plain and simple powerless. Anything that happens in my life, good and bad, is something that I earned or I learning lesson, and she's teaching me this. Today I'm still in the learning process. Not too long ago I went through some things in my life, and my sponsor's so beautiful. There I cursed her out, I this, and I'm happy, and I'm mad, and I wouldn't call her for a week because, I knew what my sponsor was going to tell me. She's not going to tell me nothing wrong. She's not going to tell me nothing she didn't already experience. All she's there for is to help me ease the pain that I'm going through. And all she could do is give me the suggestions in life, and either I take them or I don't, that's it. And that's what my sponsor is there for me, and that's why I have a sponsor today, because I can't do this alone. I can't. And how I went about it, like going through all different meetings and sitting there and listening to people and just observing people, And anyone who doesn't have a sponsor has a fool for a sponsor. I learned, I said, what? Wait a minute. And it's because if you don't have a sponsor, who you talk to, what's going on there. And I'm grateful again, and like I said, I was going through some things, major decision making, and she was in my life, she cried with me, she laughed with me, we went through the 4 steps, she put me back on another 4 step, it's like, I don't want to go through that again, the resistance in me, myself, the resistance that I pull with her, but she's always there for me, good and bad, no matter what, she's there for me. And I'm grateful for that, and it took a while for me to trust in another human being with myself. Like taking my will and turning it over to a power greater than myself. I believe in my higher power today, and he puts people in my life, today, and this person's in my life. And that, what better way than one addict helping another? And that's my sponsor, a recovering addict, And that was hard for me to get with, and I like I said, I'm still in the learning phases of my life, and I do remain teachable, and I hear everyone, the meetings, other sponsors, and I sponsor too, and I have sponsees, and I treat them the way I want to be treated, and my sponsor, like, she shares her experience, strength, and hope, like I said, things that I would like, okay, you went through that, or I might want to feel shame or guilty or the fear of telling her something because it might be all over, the world, which we are only as sick as our secrets, and guess what? We're the only ones in denial about our own shit because either I done it, did it, or it's a yet to me, or it'll be a again to me, So in order for me to get rid of whatever's going on in my life, that's when I gotta share it with my sponsor. And when it came to doing that 4th step with my sponsors, like, God, I gotta read this, and I had to read, issues, that happened in my life, experiences that I went through. She's like, oh, I went through that. I'm like, I ain't alone. She allows me to know that I am never alone. Anything that I went through, she been there. She has a knowledge of it, and it's ironic that our lives are so different but yet so similar. We don't do the same things. We don't barely see each other on a daily basis, but we do communicate with each other on a regular basis. We don't go to the same meetings, but we could ID with each other and what's going on in our lives. She could tell when I'm hurting. I can't say, I'm okay, and I'm really not. I'm all confused and messed up, in my life. And she could read me better than I could read myself. I thought I knew me the best, and I don't, and today I still don't, And that's how it works with a sponsor. That's one of the main tools, because my sponsor teaches me how to apply these steps in my life. I'll call her up in my mess and she'll say, but Marie, what part did you play with in it? Marie, what step are you applying to it? Marie, what solution are you looking at? I hate that. I'm hanging up, and I don't want to pray and I don't want to do nothing because, man, I hate when she's right. But that's why she's there in my life, And then then the same thing process when I go through it with my sponsors. And she's teaching me to teach them. And I teach them to teach others. And that's how this fellowship works. That's how sponsorship works. Again, the therapeutic value, one addict help another, it's so great, and sometimes I don't want to be a part of, I want to be apart from, but there's no way I can't get out of it today, just for today, So that's why I know, like, living clean is not enough, applying these steps and not just reading the text, I'll call her up. What's this? And then I have sponsees calling me up. Well, Marie, go to this page. What is this? Or remember when you told me that? Because, they're so happy when they got sponsees, and I'm grateful because they keep me in the book. My sponsees keep me in the book. And that's how it works. They keep me going back, back to the symbol, of how it works and why it works. And why we apply this step and that step in our life. And to sit back and look at the picture I'd hold. And to sit back and look at what part I played in it. Because either I'm the victim or I'm the victimizer. So I have to look at what part, and I always wanted to be the victim. I always wanted to be the one not guilty. I always wanted to be the one not ashamed. And these are things I had to look at in myself. I had to be honest and open-minded and willingness to go through these processes. Some things I just wanted to curl up and just die, and I know I couldn't do that. HP did not bring me this far for me to just, isolate and get into myself. That pity pot, get off that pity pot, Marie. Oh man, but, and like they say, anything after but is bullshit, and it's true. My sponsor just really lets me know straight out, she don't play around, when it comes to that, and I'm grateful for that. And a lot of lessons and blessings have occurred in my life through sponsorship, through learning, through caring, through giving, through understanding. And if I don't know why, I need to ask somebody. And who better than to ask is my sponsor. I could get with other addicts, I could sit in a meeting, I could share whatever, but there's our issues that I'm not going to bring to the tables. And who can I get? I could talk to my higher power, but higher power uses people, and I need to get with my sponsor about that issue or concern or what have you is going on in my life. I am really grateful to be here. And that's all I have to say today. And I'm an addict named Marie, and I'll keep coming back.
I'd like to announce our second speaker, Kathy S.
I'm Kathy. I'm a recovering addict.
Hi, Kathy.
This is my second time at this retreat, and kind of ironic. Last year when I was here at this retreat, I was dealing with a situation where my sponsor had disappeared on me. Had moved and had left no forwarding address and no phone number, no nothing, and it was a real painful time for me. And this year I am learning how to work with a new sponsor, and so when they first approached me and asked me if I would be willing to share my experience, strength, and hope in this workshop, it was like, no, I don't think so. You know, I already had one sponsor quit on me, and I'm having a rough time developing a relationship with my new sponsor. And then all of a sudden I heard these words come out of my mouth, and I went, oh, sure. And I said, well, that must be him again. And as I was listening to Marie talk, it started to help get me in touch with some of the feelings that I've been running from since that first sponsor disappeared, and I'm beginning to realize how much I had personalized it. For a while I was doing real good with my new sponsor, calling real regularly, and we started getting into some sensitive issues, and I haven't talked to her now in 5 or 6 weeks. And sitting here thinking while Marie was talking, I realized that there's 2 things going on inside me. Number one, a lot of fear. What if she decides that, you know, oh, I'm so sick, she just can't help me, and she disappears like the first one did. And the addict side of me that's also afraid of being a burden. And neither one of those things are going to keep me clean. Neither one of those things are going to help me progress in my recovery. When I think of the first sponsor that I had a lot of abuse issues that I needed to go through, and she had worked through a lot of hers. So maybe that's specifically what my higher power had her there for me. Because when I first came into recovery, every time my abuse issues surfaced, I would decide to go back out because I thought I could never live through working through these issues. And this woman appeared in my life, and I found a way to work through the issues without using, and now I'm on a quest for deeper spirituality, because I also consider myself a recovering Catholic, and I no longer want to believe that I am going to hell. I want to believe that the way that I'm changing my life today, the things that I'm doing today are all spiritual. I don't have to be in this black and white area. I don't have to be in this, it's heaven or hell. I'm just doing the best I can to be a spiritual being in touch with my higher power, and really working hard and believing that He's forgiven me. I just need to forgive myself. And so the new sponsor I have is very, very spiritual. I remember watching this lady for a number of years, and just watching her in the fellowship. She has so much unconditional love to give. I've never ever seen her involved in any of the gossip that goes on. I've seen her be where it would start, and when it would start, she gets up and she just walks away. And if you ask her why, she'll tell you she doesn't want to be involved in And that's the kind of stuff that I want to do. I'm definitely better at not gossiping than I was when I first came into the fellowship. But when I can watch somebody that seems to be able to do that almost all the time, and be there for you, even if you haven't been calling regularly. As afraid as I am to pick up that phone and call her, I know that when I finally do, she's not going to be mad, and she's not going to have all kinds of negative things to say. She's going to be loving and supportive like she has been since day one. And unless I give her that opportunity to do that, I can't experience her unconditional love, and I can't learn all the things that she's learned to find her spirituality. To be able to love people in an unconditional way is definitely a very special and spiritual quality. It isn't something that comes easily in my human form, because my human form has a tendency to want to judge people, especially if I'm feeling insecure with myself, because if I can look at you and find something sicker about you than me, well, then at least I'm a little bit better. And I don't want to be better that way. I want to be better in whatever spiritual things my higher power wants me to be doing, not just in the fellowship, but on my job and with my family. And coming here, I had left my son in a crisis coming here, and my son is an adult, and I had a real difficult time making the decision to still come. And I'm working real hard on staying focused and centered here, because my mind's going crazy, and I'm concerned, is he okay? Is he crying? Is he, well, he might need me, and what about the grandchildren? And I had met a woman here last year, and I had shared about her in one of the workshops I was in last year, and she's another very spiritual being. She kind of just picked me out from this crowd of people last year and introduced me around, and she could see me sitting there kind of all quiet and shy and feeling like, oh God, I don't belong here because I don't know anybody here. Why did I come? And she was one that made sure I got here this year. I didn't have transportation, so she says, okay, I'll drive you. I said, I can't come. My son's got some problems, and I think him and the grandchildren need me. And she says, no, I think you need to go and take care of your recovery and let your son take care of himself. So I have not called home yet. And I do believe it's because I have been praying to my higher power, not because I have my sponsor here. She's very far away at the moment, but I also realize all of a sudden that she's only a phone call away, too. There is no distance in this fellowship, only the distance that I want to create. And I have created a lot of distance in the last few months between friends in the fellowship, my sponsor. I need to get back in touch with what Kathy needs to do for her recovery. I need to get back in touch with my higher power. And I think My friend was right. I think this is exactly where I need to be. I didn't need to be at home. I need to see all the faces that are working on kind of the same issues, I guess, that I am. Just reminds me that I don't have to give up. Because in every room there's at least one person struggling with something, and if they haven't given up, I don't have to either. And I really do want to continue working on developing that trust in my new sponsor. I need to call when I get home, and I need to be honest and tell her what I've been afraid of, and that let's start working together again. That's all I have. With that, I pass.
Okay, well, let's open this meeting up for anybody else who'd like to share. During the sharing session, if anyone does not want to be taped, please let us know and we'll turn the tape off. Does anybody else want to share?
Hello, family. My name is Mike Armatic. I first want to give honor and praise to my higher power, who's called by many names. I also want to give honor and praise to our ancestors, because without them, we wouldn't be here. I always say that because it helps fill some of the empty seats, and it also reminds me of those people who were here prior to me getting here, because some have passed away. Some of them are our ancestors, and I always want to be able to keep those people in mind. You know, the first part of this talks about how, and I myself don't have a solution to that, such as there's no model addict, there's no model sponsor either. And see, I got to remember that my sponsor has his defects too, you know, and I got to keep that in mind. It's just somebody who I can go talk to. And surely today, because I found the solution on how to deal with some of my problems, I don't have to stay in touch completely like I did in the beginning, because in the beginning I didn't have no solution. You know, I didn't know nothing about, like my sister just said, what part did you play in it? And that's the worst sound in the world. You want to hang up, you know. Damn. You know, what part did you play in it? And I know it's me. And nobody else but me. You know, I'm angry because of my fear. You know, that's what's really going on. And like I said, there's no model sponsor. You know, there's no model sponsee. You know, how, like I said, there's no way to do it. Only some of the suggestions that I could give anybody was to be able to have a listening ear. Because most of the time, my sponsees actually talk themselves into their solution. The majority of the time. Every once in a while, I got to bring something from my experience, but most of the time, you know, I just let them talk. And the hard part is not to butt in. That's the hardest part for me, because I always got something to say. You know, it might be crazy or off the wall a lot of times, but I always got something to say. I got that honestly from my father. But it is like, just listen. And a lot of times and they'll keep talking, and as long as they're talking, I don't have to say nothing. You know, and a lot of times they just say, thanks for listening. Because that's only what I needed. You know, sponsorship, it says practice these principles in all your affairs. Sponsorship goes a lot further than just in the meetings, because my son one day, he stood up, he said, I like the way them big trucks turn the corner. And I thought about that, and I said, wow, if I didn't listen to him, the dope man would. As long as he was buying. You know, yeah, I listen to you, see you all day long as you buying, you know, what I'm giving away. And the dope man would listen. And I get to listen for free. And then after I listened to him, I said, man, I kind of like the way them big trucks turn the corner too. You know, take that wide swing and pull it on in there. And I kind of like when I do it, you know. And it's like, just to be listening. Sometimes sponsees only need a hug, you know, and I think I get that side from my daughter. You know, she don't want very much. She just wants to be a daughter. She just wants to sit on Dad's lap. and be a daughter. That's all she wants. And I can sit there and I can hold her and I can squeeze her and mess in her hair and do some other things and clown around with her. And, it goes further than just in these Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I can go to work and be able to listen. Just be able to listen. When people come ask, will you sponsor me? What? Yeah, because I want them to build up that courage, because they build up that courage then they can build up some other courage at some other point in time. And I'll never turn nobody away, because I don't want nobody to have the excuse why I couldn't find a sponsor, because that's just another loophole. So what I want to do, I want to take that loophole and say, you used for another reason, not because you couldn't find a sponsor. Now maybe you didn't use a sponsor. That's a different loophole. See, that's not the same one as you couldn't find one. See, now you didn't use them, that's completely up to you. I had to tell them to do what I did. That's all I can tell you. Go to meetings, read the text, and how I got into reading the text was I wanted to make those other people out of a lie. That can't be in the basic text. Ain't no way that's in there. A good hug leads a lasting relationship. Ain't no way that's in there. And look on page 88. It's in there, right at the bottom. And I always tell my sponsors, because first thing they say, well, relationship can be a painful area in our lives. Okay, you through? Yeah. Now read what's before it and what's after it. Because they don't never do that. Hey, you got to read all of it. Just don't come up expressing things. I had to tell them, just don't come up and say, well, money is the root of all evil. It don't say that. Say the love of money is the root of all evil. There's certain ways you got to keep them going, and I'm on all of them about smoking. They don't like it, but it's all right. That's part of it. They so proud. That's my grand sponsor. Have you still use it? They ain't my grand sponsor no more. I ain't no problem with that. Why? Man, that's the deepest part. Why do it? Everybody needs that listening ear. When one of my sponsors told me he had the virus, and man, I had to call my sponsor. Man, why you tell me that? Why you drop the bomb on me? And my sponsor told me he had to tell somebody. And then he come to me and, hey man, you think I should tell the rest of the fellowship? And hey man, I can't tell you to do that. And in sponsorship, I have to be honest and tell them I can't relate to that. See, there's certain things I can relate to, and I couldn't relate to them when it comes to that issue, but I can tell them don't use about it. I could give him a hug when he needed it the most. I could be over there and talk to him. I didn't go to his funeral, but I was there before he died, in them last stages, So I really felt good about that. I didn't have to go to his funeral. I had already seen him. I seen the best of him, but he had to tell somebody, and I called my sponsor because I had to tell somebody, and I couldn't, you had to tell people where it's not going to get out, until he decided that he wanted to come out on his own and be able to say it and tell everybody else. Then it still wasn't all right for me to say it, because it wasn't my issue. And I had to be honest, I can't relate to that. I can't, I probably can, because I can tell any sister not to use, but there's certain issues I can't relate to. And I got to be able to tell you, I can't relate to childbirth. I don't know nothing about it. See, but I can relate to child support. We can sit down and talk all day about how I don't want to pay it, how I look at my check and I see all that money. I say, damn, I could be doing this with that. There's certain things I can relate to, there's certain things I can't. And I got to be honest enough with anybody I sponsor to say, I can't relate to that. But I still got to be able to listen. I still got to have that listening ear, because my ego says, yeah, go and say something about that. I'm going to tell somebody about childbirth. There's a lot of things I can't talk about. And why? It's still, man. And that good feeling to kind of think I helped somebody. It reminds me of H&I when you're sitting in McDonald's and here comes somebody and they're coming straight towards you and you trying to eat them pancakes and, oh man, I'm so glad you came to the hospital and you helped me. You know, thank you. You know, give them a hug, and you know, so I can get back to my pancakes, and you know, man, they're just so glad to see you. You know, that's why. You know, guy stopped me at the. I was at a gas station in East Chicago, and a guy come up to me, he said, "Man, you don't remember me, do you?" No, I'm trying to get my gas here. I hope you know, thinking somebody gonna ask for some money or something. You know, damn, I ain't got no dollar. Just put the last of it in the tank. He said, "Man, I was at Lake County Jail when you used to come there." That's that good feeling. That's that why. That's that reason that I always wanted to pay for them good feelings. And I paid a lot of money trying to get them same good feelings that I get for free. Man, and all I got to do is help somebody else. You can't buy that. Those feelings, you know, I'm so glad I got feelings today. You know, in the basic text, it says we had two feelings. We were either elated or depressed. When we was going to get it, man, I'm going to get it. I got it. You know, go back and get it. You know, we're going to do it. Then after it was done, oh, man, it's over. Man, what am I going to do now? It was either elated or depressed. Now I got all kind of feelings. You know, when my daughter learned how to ride her bike and she stood up and she knew that she could ride that, best feeling in the world, but you can't buy that. See? And what you're going to get out of sponsorship is what you're going to put into it. That's bottom line. There's nothing else to it. You know, I can't tell what some people get out of what we do as sponsors, but you can see it. You can see how that person picked up. You see how, you know, and I always related to the newcomer coming in the door, and we all came in the same way, I think, you know, because we all come in and looking like old raggedy weed, you know. But if we sit here long enough, you see flowers bloom, you know, and we're all flowers, you know. To think about where we were as to where we are today, man, the flowers blooming. You know, it just ain't budding, it's blooming today. You know, because there's a lot of other things that are going on today that wouldn't have been going on. You know, I'm glad I found the way out. I'm glad I know the way out. And see, the best part about it, I got some knowledge that some doctors, therapists, and all them other professionals don't have. We're the only people who can help those kind of people. Why? Because we've been down that road. And see, I can't stand up and look down on nobody because they're using, unless I'm going to help them up. Now, if I'm going to help them up, then yeah, I go look down on them for a minute because I got to be able to find out where their hand is. Yeah, that's the reason to do it. And, man, if I wasn't doing it, I couldn't tell nobody how to do it. See, that's the other part. See, and the people I sponsor, I don't know if they do it the same way I do. It don't matter. I just ask them, are they doing it? You know, are you living the pro? Are you giving back? And sponsorship is that. You know, I'm learning big words too that I'm in. Reciprocity. That's a big word, man. Reciprocity. Got a whole lot of letters in it. And all it means is the only way to keep it is to give it away. That's all it means. But it's a big word. You know, I got these big words now. You know, I use them on a regular basis. You know, I ain't saying weird at who got it, how much you got on it. You know, because that was our favorite 4 sentences. You know, that's all we knew. How much you got on it, man? Where we gonna go get it from? You know, now I'm learning all these big words, and man, the only way to keep it is to give it away. Man, and the benefit of giving it away. You know, I always look at, man, if I get this away, man, I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose this, and I'm going to lose this. And never looked at the greater benefit, you know, because I'm giving away a little bit. But, man, I'm reaping the big benefits on this side. But I'm thinking, you know, so selfish. That's my selfishness thinking, well, if I get this away, what they going to do with it? Don't worry about what they do with it. Give it away. You know, and I reap it, and, you know, it may not come as I gave it, but it also comes in a different way. I ain't used in a while. You know, that's how it comes. You know, and I look at sponsorship as service work. It's some service, you know, because you call me 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna get honest with you quickly because I want to go back to sleep. You know, I'm gonna get very honest. Don't use. What is it? Don't use. You know, and I'm gonna get up. You know, give me a few minutes to gather my thoughts together. I'm going to get up and I'm going to talk to you. You know, I don't want to turn nobody away because nobody turned me away. I called 2 o'clock in the morning in order to go into a treatment center, and they got me back together physically. And they got, you know, they told me to make these meetings, and y'all help me get back mentally, and then y'all tell me y'all need to go. I need to go get some spirituality. You know, it's that 3-legged stool. And when I'm missing, it ain't going to stand. So the bottom line is, do it so that you can get yours back. And like I said, you never know where it comes from. You never know how it's gonna come and what it's gonna look like. But man, it feels so good when it does come back. That's bottom line. That's all I got.
Thanks, Mike.
Would anybody else like to share?
I'm Ray, I'm an addict. You know, I'm looking at this workshops. Actually, I was looking at this thing. Was the reason why I wanted to come up here. You know, I looked at this thing, sponsorship, this workshop, and I didn't know how y'all did workshops here in Indiana. But I came here, and what I needed was I do have a sponsor right now. He's on this 4th step, and I was kind of hoping I would get some information from y'all on how I'm going to do that. I already knew that. You know, these are, you know, it just was brought up. You know, how we do the sponsorship is we usually know the answers when we're already looking for them. Thing I wanted to say was that, you know, I came into this fellowship. I was 46 years old when I tripped down the stairs into a meeting, and so one thing I saw was the why the sponsorship thing. You know, at 46 years old, I was pretty convinced that I really didn't need anybody to tell me what to do. You know, and it took me a while to come up with the conclusion that why was I here if I didn't need somebody to tell me what to do. I came down to it was a basement meeting in a church, and I remember walking down to it, and I was afraid, and I was pretty convinced that this wasn't going to work anyway, so I would just give it a shot. Unbelievably, too, I'm thinking, here I was 46 years old, and I really hadn't even heard of Narcotics Anonymous before, and I fight with that sometimes to see if I was in denial that I had heard it or not, but I had no idea that there was something out here that could help me. So I got in here, and I started coming to meetings, you know, and I'm seeing and I'm hearing that, and I'm starting coming to believe that this could probably work for me if I kept coming. And then about a month or two later, coming to meetings, people are seeing me there, you know, and they're going, "Hey, you got a sponsor yet?" I go, "Oh, geez." And these were questions I really, you know, I guess what I'm saying is the why about this was it was integral for me. This was the stepping stone if I was going to stay or not going to stay. Was I going to get a sponsor or not? And I kind of, I entertained it, let's put it there. I entertained the thought that maybe I ought to get a sponsor. And you all just kept asking me and kept bugging me. And so finally I did it because I didn't want to say no anymore, you know. So, and the thing that it was about it is, you know, I did a very NA program. Like I had gone to meetings for months and months and months, and I found out who I thought was the winners, you know. And those were the people that we see in the meetings, and they have that serenity about them. They got something that we want, and so I asked this first guy, and he said no, just right off the bat. Said no, I can't. And I was shocked. And I'm going, oh, geez, I mean, here I am. I finally did this, and he said no. And I'm going, but he didn't let us time slots. You know, I was just about ready to give it up, but he goes, you know, I just want to let you know that I'm moving out of state next month. You know, it's not that I wouldn't do it or whatever. It's just that he had a reason why he couldn't do it. And he talked to me for a while, and he said, well what you want to do is ask somebody else. So I was glad about that, and that's the loving, caring thing that we hear about in this program, and we hear about when one door closes, another one opens, and so I'm hanging on some of this rhetoric that I've been coming to believe, and so I asked another guy, and he couldn't do it either, so I got two times no, and but now I'm convinced that I want a sponsor. Now I'm convinced that I'm seeing you guys, I'm seeing you having some serenity in your life, and I'm feeling that since this is the way you do it, you get a sponsor, so now I'm going to get one. So I did get, the third guy I asked, he said yes, and he had, had something that I thought was real neat way to work the sponsorship thing. We set up a day, and every week for the first 6 months that we worked together, we met every Sunday at 5 o'clock at his house, and we went over something, whether it was step work, whether it was something was going on in my life that needed to be talked about, something was going on in his life, and he just needed to talk. And though our paths, didn't cross a lot during the week, because at that time I had a family, a business, and he was working quite a bit, so there was not a lot of contact in between the week for us. He lived in another section of town. The meetings he hit weren't the same ones I hit, and so it's real nice to know that once a week we got together no matter what. And that's something that now I'm sponsoring people, and that's something that I set up. And the minute I can get somebody to do the work, I noticed before a couple other people that spoke. A lot of I get asked to be a sponsor a lot lately because, and the thing is, I'm sure we all know, is that there's the availability of people in the rooms, and we talk about, where are the people with 4, 5, and 6 years aren't there anymore, and so I'm a guy that's going to a lot of meetings, and the newcomers that don't have a lot to choose from, so I know that's where I'm getting asked a lot. I don't say yes to everyone either, because I have to think about if I'm going to have the time. And these are some boundaries I have to set on myself, and I don't just say no. I just talk to them for a while, have them go read a pamphlet. I tell them that I have to talk to my sponsor, and I do talk to my sponsor, and he has what he'll do to accept a new sponsee, and that is out of gratitude, out of how we got here and how we started recovering, that we will give it back by sponsoring. And he also decides, and he told me when I got him, my sponsor that I have now, that he works a lot. His job takes him out of the country. Sometimes he's gone for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And was I willing to have a sponsor that I couldn't get a hold of at times? And the second thing he told me is, I'm really a sick bastard too. And at the time I thought maybe he had some physical disease, and I thought he was going to die, But what it meant was he's an addict just like all of us, and he has his character defects, and the thing that I need to do when I get new sponsors too is let them know that too, that what happens, and I had put him up on a pedestal, and what he let me know is that he's a human being too, and I got to learn that too, because he and I decided to take a vacation together and do some scuba diving in the Keys, and throw it in a room together for a little bit over a week. We got to see who we really were at times, so that's it was, it's really, I guess what I'm saying is really neither here nor there, because I got to see that I'm willing to be patient with somebody else. I'm willing to let other people be who they are. A lot of things that I'm learning in this program, and I'm willing to do. I'm willing to allow you to have your character defects, be it my sponsor or whatever. I'm thinking too that this guy I got now is my second sponsor. The first sponsor that I had did move away, so I got this other one, and it's it's just something else that I wanted to say, that he said too when we got this going. After a while he goes, it's all about having a relationship, and that's something I hadn't heard before from my first sponsor. And he said, if you don't call me for a week or two, I'm calling you, And he says, because I just want to see what's going on with you, because the thing is, we're developing a relationship. I'm getting to know you, you're getting to know me, and it's not about, where, hey, I called my sponsor, he wasn't home, I'm getting a new one. It's about, I gotta work on a relationship. I left all my other relationships because something wasn't working exactly right for me, So now it's a matter of if what I need out of my sponsor he's not giving me exactly the way I want it, I don't get a new one. You know, I may not call him for a week or so while I live in that stuff, and then I get back to him and I go, well, that's what we're doing. You and I have a relationship. We need to work on it, and this is something that I wasn't willing to come to terms, and I wanted to get into a little denial about it. So rather than split the relationship with the sponsor and live in that denial, I'll face it now. And so that's, I guess that's just something I wanted to say. You know, sometimes I wonder why, you know, it says, why do we get a sponsor? And I just never understood this therapeutic value business before I got here. And, you know, we talk about religion, medicine, and psychiatry. None of those worked for us because those people weren't addicts like us. You know, when we'd go and ask them, when I used to be in some trouble and I'd ask a psychiatrist or something like that, and they'd go, hey, why don't you just fucking quit using, you know? And it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't that, thank you, it wasn't that simple, you know, and I needed this therapeutic thing to go on because if I could have just quit using, I wouldn't be needing to talk to you anyway, you know? So, I guess I want to say I'm really glad to come out here. I came here from Ohio. I saw one other license plate here from Ohio. We have our big Ohio convention going on this weekend, but I opt to come to something smaller and something where I like places where it's more serene and a little bit more laid back. Hotel conventions are really not my cup of tea. So just glad to be here, and I'll pass.
Would anybody else like to share?
I'm Ben, I'm an addict.
Hi, Ben.
I was sitting here, I came to this workshop today, mainly because the relationship I have with my sponsor today is real weak. It's like, you know, I was sitting here thinking during the meeting about, it's like, well, I got a sponsor, but do I really, you know, because I'm not using them, I'm not calling them, I'm not making appointments, getting together, working the steps. It's like I got all these wonderful things going on in my life, and am living a lot different way than what I was when I first came into the program. But it's like I'm seeing like just a lot of static areas in my life where there's not change, where there's not progression, and so I just wanted to kind of get up here and share that, just kind of share where I'm at. That's all I got.
Thanks, Ben.
My name is Lynn, a grateful recovering addict.
Hey,
Through the grace of God, I'm here today, another day, clean and sober. I'm glad to be with you people today. I'm glad that you're here for me as well as yourself. As far as a sponsor, I've been in the program for 6 months, and for me, I don't know, you all are a sponsor to me. I'm still looking for a sponsor today, and I don't know, I just don't like, the things I can relate to a sponsor, you know, it's kind of hard for me. And for me, all of you are a sponsor to me because I just can't tell someone anything. As far as relating to things, it's like you've been there, you all been there and done that with me, you know, as far as being related to certain things, where we come from and where we've been and where we plan on going. With that, I'm going to keep coming back.
keep coming back.
Anybody else? No one else? Okay. I guess we can gather up over here and search one, close the meeting.
Mommy. What? Leave it to me, huh? I'll just look at it. Yeah, when they just opened that-
Let's have a moment of silence. Attic Who Still Suffers, followed by the Wii version. God.
Grant us serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know that works to live it.
Clean and serene.
Good job, Tom. Good job.
I got a doctor on his second.
I like when you talk.
I didn't know.
You all right with me. You know that. You know that. You don't ever ask you what you did. Got a sponsor yet? No, why not? And let me say, whenever you say, I can't, what you really mean, I won't. That's what you really mean. It's not that you can't, that you won't. So do anything you want to do. You can. Oh, yeah, you want. Let's let it rock.
I guess I should have.
Sure, good job.
There ain't nobody on.
Give me another. You go
Come on, at the register, you go now.
Trapped in a body, controlled by a mind.
She lost her ankle one.
Oh.
I'm coming to look for it, but she found it before I did. I knew you would find it because you lost hers yesterday.